In this video, we're going to learn why you should stop working hard, right? It's not necessarily going to help your career. I'm someone who previously worked at Goldman Sachs, and I'm going to give you some excellent career advice about why you shouldn't work hard. So let's listen to this little clip here.
Has these three employees. The overachiever, they are constantly sucking up and probably have their work done for next week already. The clock watcher, at 4:59, they have keys in their hand and they are packed up and ready to go. And then the office ghost, you're never quite sure where they are and they always seem to disappear right before a meeting. Which one are you?
So you mentioned there are three types of employees: the overachiever, who works hyperproductive; the clock watcher, who's always looking at the clock, ready to leave their job bang on time; and then the office ghost, people who avoid responsibility, right? So the important thing is not to be one of these, but to be all three, right? Pretend to be an overachiever by making tasks seem long and difficult to do, and then you deliver ahead of schedule, things like that, where you get your deadline you get a generous deadline, as generous as you can get it, and then do the work ahead of schedule to impress your manager that you can work hard under pressure and things like that. Pretend to appear to be hyper productive. Then being a clock watcher, this is what I mean about you have to have multiple faces, masks when you're in the office. One is the pretending to overachieve, the other is to your genuine face, which might be you want to leave work on time, but there's certain times you might strategically work a bit later to impress the manager. Certain times you want to leave bang on time, and you can be a clock watcher without making it obvious, right? You can constantly be aware of I'm being super tight with my time management, arriving on time, leaving on time, things like that, without it being obvious, like coming in at 5 minutes before the manager. Some people do that, so it gives the impression they were working for a long time before the manager arrived. Leaving bang on time because you've got family commitments. Those are different things you can leverage to be able to leave on time without being perceived as being a lazy employee. And then being an office ghost, avoiding responsibility. Now, the way I do that, not like skipping meetings like he mentioned here, but I'm avoiding any personal accountability. If something goes wrong, it wasn't your fault, it was the system, it was the overall process or procedure that we can enhance. Never take personal responsibility, because the moment there's something in writing that you did something wrong, they could leverage that against you to give you a bad performance review, put you on a performance improvement plan, give you a flat bonus or no bonus. So you have to be very strategic about how you do this. Pretending to be an overachiever, really being a clock watcher, and strategically being an office ghost by not taking too much accountability or too much responsibility for too much work. So it's really a strategic game you've got to play in the office, and that's how you can stop working hard and being strategic with your time.
Does not pay off all the time, okay? Now, I know you might not like that. I know a ton of people like, man, what are you talking about? That sounds crazy. Everybody know hard work's pay off. Dude, it doesn't work like that in business. I can promise you that, okay? Let me give you a prime example. I remember one time I was running a dedicated account, and I was the hardest worker there. I would show up early. I would just knock out everything that they asked me to. I was on it like this, right? They had a new guy that started, and he was getting all of the favor. He was skipping the line. They were giving him the best picks, and I was so confused. Well, it turns out that he was just tipping them, and it wasn't all business with him. He had a lot more personal conversations. He knew about family things with them, and I did not take the time to even show that I cared about their family, right? What I'm trying to say is this, guys. You got to learn how to get people to like you. And a lot of times when you focus on working hard, you skip right over the fact that you're dealing with people. And all it takes is for somebody to already know that, come in and take what you got, just by understanding that it's not always about hard work. Sometimes it's about building relationships. And we have a ton of that happening inside the trucking industry every single day. So learn how to build relationships and put hard work to the side. Make it secondary.
So this is a good point, right? And this is why, relationships are more important than hard work. And that's why, he mentions, having personal friendship with people. I remember some co-workers that would attend each other's marriages, their weddings, things like that. If they have kids, sharing interest about what their kids are learning and things like that, and what they personally care about, even if you're not maybe someone who doesn't have kids, showing an interest in that person's family and how they're dealing with their personal life. And this is the sad thing about reality, like even about the workplace environment. Even if you want to work hard and succeed on the basis of that, it's more about whether they like you. So even doing things outside of work, unfortunately, sometimes you might have to do is watching the same TV shows, keeping up with the latest sports news, if that's what interests your co-workers. People in the work environment, the NPCs, the normies, they need that fake friendship, even though they know it's fake, They want to keep up those false pretenses, and that's why like he mentions, relationships are kind of important at work, and putting on that fake face and that fake pretense will really help you fit in that type of environment.
I was just in Costco and it was really busy, but that wasn't the problem. It was the way that everyone was acting as if everything needed to be done so quickly. It's like, yeah, there was a big ass line, but the workers were acting as if it was the end of the world, and like the vibes were really terrible, and like everyone was extremely on edge just simply because it was busy. And as a highly sensitive person, maybe it's just me that is like feeling anxious from everyone else's energy. I wasn't even working there. I was just buying stuff. Like I had no reason to feel the need to play into their fast-paced, we got to get this done energy. But it's wild how we act like being anxious about situations makes a difference. We act like it makes a difference if we're anxious. Why can't we just like get things done quickly and efficiently without the stress and like anxiety induced urgency? Like, because we all know that at the end of the day we'll all go home and the job will be done just like it was last time and the time before. It'll all work out. Why don't we ever learn like, hey, like this, it's busy. All it is that they're busy, but they're acting as if it's at the end of the world. They're not in their body. They're not busy in their body. They're in fight or flight, and it's fucked up in their body since it's busy.
He's got a good point here, and that kind of contrasts with the last video that I was sharing with you, right? Is that, you understand that, you want to build healthy working relationships, but you're in this very toxic, dysfunctional social environment, right? Where people are rushing, you want to be detached emotionally from work, you want to work at a decent pace that you can work out on a daily basis, be consistent with that, rather than overworking yourself. But when you have this dysfunctional society, you're dealing with people who have mental health issues that are becoming increasingly common: anxiety, depression, unnecessary stress, jealousy, some hyper-competitive passive aggressiveness. This constant daily pressure to perform at a high level can be quite draining, and the constant threat level, you're always fed. That's why I recommend you don't pay too much attention to the news. There's always a new crisis that the system wants you to be worried about. Negativity from work and co-workers or managers, things like that. So people are cracking under the socio-economic pressure that they're dealing with, right? Both social dynamics and financial dynamics. So it's a contrast with the other video, right? In terms of stop working hard, and the core message here is like you have to be healthily emotionally detached from the dynamic that you're around, right? Become ungovernable. I'm sure some of you seen the meme, become ungovernable. And the way I see that is becoming unpredictable and uninvested in the way the system's going. So the thing is, and the important point here is about the vibe, and that might sound a bit like new age spirituality when he's talking about being a highly sensitive person, things like that. The truth is, the impact of the vibe around you, it does impact you, right? And I remember some people are just like, oh, just focus on yourself, just be independent of that. But the thing is, there's no escaping the vibe around you. If you're around negative co-workers, I remember one time working with someone in the sales and trading team, and he was like next to me. He was like my direct manager, even though it's kind of a flat management structure. He didn't really have too much say of what I do. But he was super negative, super insecure, super like comparing himself to others and their job titles and their salary, and looking up people on LinkedIn that he used to work with to find out what level they're at and what salary they could be at, and feeling a bit demotivated because he was kind of falling behind compared to them, and things like that. And it was like this constant negativity and insecurity and comparison, and the phrase comparison is the theft of joy. And it was a really dark negative energy surrounding this person. And I'm not even that into spirituality and things like that, but it starts to impact you if you're sitting next to a negative person all day long, right? You can't be completely independent of things around you, and that's the difficult thing about the work environment. Even if you try to treat it like I'm just trying to do my work and go home, it can impact you. And that's why you got to be careful, picking up on vibes like that in job interviews and things like that. If you've got the flexibility, then you get a really bad vibe from a company, or that the people are overworked, they look super tired and depressed, even if it's a well-paying job. Think about that. If that's the position they're in, that's the position you might be in after a couple of years. So look out for those subtle red flags that might stand out to you. And I noticed this recently, to be honest. I took a trip outside of the UK for business purposes to Paraguay, and Paraguay is a small country next to Brazil. There's not much going on there. It's not a tourist destination. It's still kind of a developing or underdeveloped economy. But the general vibe there is a bit more laid back, a bit more positive, and things are inefficient. It's not a perfect country by any means. You have some lack of infrastructure and things like that. But the vibe is just chill. People just living their life day to day. I'm sure some people are super ambitious, trying to make it in life. But there's not this passive aggressive hyper competitiveness there. It's not like the where UK has the London, UK, things like that. You have a bit of a reputation for having grey clouds, being quite negative and miserable and crabs in the bucket mentality. It doesn't have that vibe there. And it's funny how, like I say, you can pick up on that. I wasn't particularly socializing with the locals. I talked to a few of them. I spent some time in the local area, but the vibe was completely different. And I come back to the UK and it's just like a downward, depressing, things like that. Even though UK is a developed economy, we might be, oh, UK is a great place to make money, or London is a great place to live. And it's like, why is the vibe so dark? It feels like you're living in some kind of alternate hell. And if you're someone in London, let me know how you feel. London, New York, Tokyo, any major city. Let me know what you feel about the vibe right now, because it feels so dark. It feels like you're living in Sodom and Gomorrah, and it's like you're on a sinking ship. That's how it feels like for many people in the West right now, right? Even if you see some positive signs of maybe things getting better next year. And then the thing is, like, it makes you think about what you're getting paid to do. And I think part of what you get paid to do in sometimes high-paying corporate jobs or other high-stress jobs, they're paying you as someone who can deal with the stress, who has that emotional fortitude to deal with that kind of dysfunctional environment. And these are the things where you've got to be emotionally detached, right? You might have to get paid to do the actual work and work hard, but try to keep that emotional neutrality, right? When you're dealing with stressful environments where they're demanding faster work, and part of you is being paid to pretend to be more emotionally invested in the work while being emotionally detached. So it's like this tricky game you've got to play of like dealing with these social dynamics, but also faking emotions that you're invested when you're really emotionally detached and maybe you couldn't care less about it. So interesting dynamic, and another reason there to stop working hard, because you don't want to take on board all the emotional burdens of the dysfunctional society, of workplace pressure, just being kind of neutral and kind of numb to it all. There is some truth to that.
Listen, you want to get promoted, you gotta stop working so hard. Hear me out on why. Most people think that to get ahead, they have to be the hardest worker in the office. They have to be the first one in, the last one to leave. They have to be the one willing to work the overtime and work through holidays, not take vacation. But the reality is that all that gets you is just more work. They look at you as a worker bee. It's not impressing anybody at the top levels of the organization where it's most important. Instead, I would rather improve my visibility and work on the quality of my face time rather than the amount of it, meaning that I'm going to look for very visible projects in my area of influence, and I'm going to make sure that I hit them out of the park so that the right people notice. And the right person is not typically your boss. It's actually 2 layers up, because they're the decision makers, and if your name's not being brought up behind their closed door, you can forget about any promotion. Focus on visibility with the right kinds of people if you want to get promoted, and not so much the number of hours that you work.
Now, see, he's got a good point here, right? So in terms of the reward for hard work is more work, and that's why you shouldn't be working hard. And visibility is so important. So just bear in mind, what is the high priority for senior management, maybe above your direct line management? What's going to get you the visibility? It might be a project that's going to drive up profitability for the company in your department. Try to get involved in that, or maybe have a side role in that so you can get more involved in anything that's going to generate more money for the company. And try to get your name linked to anything that's positive, and remove your name from anything that's negative. And I know that might be hard to do, but like I say, that's why it's looking out for projects, understanding office politics, and just weaseling your way into what's going to be a growing area. So for example, it's kind of died down now in terms of the demand because the economy's unstable, but when they were making up all this ESG climate agenda type of thing where have to have all these sustainable investments, a lot of those trends were creating a lot more kind of buzz around work around that. So if that was a growing trend, you could get more involved in that type of work because it's a growing area and more stable for your job stability, and senior management are going to keep a keen eye on anything growing like ESG type of investments. And then one thing to be careful of is the other side of that is where you end up doing a lot of work for things where there is no visibility. Like I remember working on updating company policies and procedures, within the trading teams. And what would happen is that I would end up doing a lot of the work for my team, for myself and for my team members, because I thought, oh, this will give me visibility amongst them. But in the end, it wasn't really that productive. It didn't raise my profile by any extent. I was just doing work for myself and other team members that they were kind of, no one's really getting credit for it. I wasn't getting credit for it and they weren't getting credit for it. It was like standard procedure we have annually. So I started putting in less effort to that and it not kind of covering for my team members and doing extra work to help them. After I realized there's no visibility benefit of this, I just do the bare minimum for what I need to do and let them pick up the slack for what they should be doing instead of dumping it on me. So it's important to understand those dynamics. What was senior management looking out for? What couldn't they care less about? And some of the routine things you do day to day, you think you're going to get credit for. No one really cares about that. So there's no point being too focused on that. And that's another reason why stop working hard. It won't focus on your career. You should, instead of focusing on working hard, you should work smart, work strategically, get involved in the right things to raise your career profile. I've worked for over 10 years, Goldman's, Morgan Stanley, many other top banks, and I offer career advice that will help you navigate these type of tricky workplace environments with these subtle corporate codes and underlying office politics. There's a link in the description if you want to speak with me directly. Let me know in the comments how you feel about stop working hard and how it doesn't help your career. I'm sure many of you have had similar experiences. 2 recommended videos on your screen right now, link in description to speak with me directly, and I'll see you next time.